Have you ever had a secret you couldn't tell anyone? One that wasn't yours to share? Well, that's what it's like for me.
When people think about the Twilight Saga, a bunch of different moments come to mind. The romance, the sparkling vampires, the epic showdowns with the Volturi, but one of the most hotly debated topics still comes back to Jacob imprinting on Renesmee. Out of all the unusual storylines Stephenie Meyer created, this one continues to split fans right down the middle because it's both a major plot twist and a pretty complicated situation to wrap your head around. It's not just controversial because Jacob bonds with Bella's daughter when she's still a baby, but also because it sets the stage for what might come next in the Cullen family story. And honestly, when you look closely at the way things ended in Breaking Dawn Part 2, this whole imprinting storyline could be exactly the kind of loose thread that gives the franchise a reason to continue with a sixth movie. So let's take a step back. Imprinting is something tied directly to the Quileute shapeshifters, Jacob's werewolf pack. As Jacob himself explains in Eclipse, it's not something they choose. Imprinting is basically a biological reaction that instantly bonds a wolf to their soulmate. But soulmate doesn't always mean romantic partner. Jacob tells Bella that imprinting turns the wolf into whatever the person needs most at any point in their life. That could mean a friend, a protector, a mentor, and eventually, if the feelings are mutual, a romantic partner. The whole point is that the wolf becomes completely devoted to that person's well-being no matter what. At first, Jacob almost seems to wish for it to happen to him with Bella. His unrequited love makes him cling to the hope that maybe fate will step in and make Bella his other half. But of course, it never happens with her. Instead, it happens in Breaking Dawn Part 1, when Bella's half-human, half-vampire daughter, Renesmee, is born. Jacob imprints on her instantly. This twist lands like a bombshell because Renesmee is just a child, and fans have always wrestled with what that means for Jacob's future. The Cullens don't take the news lightly either. Remember, vampires and werewolves are natural enemies, and Edward has never been fully comfortable with Jacob hanging around Bella. So when Jacob bonds with Renesmee, the tension spikes even higher. But gradually in Breaking Dawn Part 2, the Cullens begin to realize that this actually ensures Renesmee's safety. Since imprinting is unbreakable, Jacob would literally lay down his life for her. That fact ends up earning him their trust, and when the Volturi arrive, the family counts on Jacob to protect Renesmee if things go south. Now, part of what makes Renesmee such a unique character is that she's not just a hybrid, but she's also got some unusual powers of her own. She doesn't sparkle like a full vampire, but she has their speed, strength, and agility while still being able to eat human food. On top of that, she can do something that most of the Cullens can't. She can project her memories and thoughts into someone else's mind just by touching them. It's an ability that makes her especially important in Breaking Dawn Part 2 because she uses it to prove to Arrow and the Volturi that she isn't a dangerous newborn vampire, but instead a hybrid with control over herself. And the idea of inherited powers doesn't stop with her. When Bella becomes a vampire, her own hidden gift is revealed. She's always been shielded against mental powers. Edward could never read her mind. Arrow couldn't either, and that's because she has the natural ability to cast a mental shield. Once she embraces her vampiric powers, she can extend that shield to protect others too. What's fascinating about Renesmee's ability is how it almost works as the exact opposite of her parents. Bella blocks powers, Edward reads thoughts, and Renesmee projects them. It's like she's the perfect blend of both of them, but twisted in a unique way. All of this ties back to what the future might hold for the Cullens. The saga technically ends on a hopeful note. In Alice's vision, we see a flash forward to Renesmee as a grown young woman standing with Jacob by her side and visiting Bella and Edward. That little glimpse shows that things turn out all right in the long run. Edward even smiles when he catches the vision through Alice's thoughts, which reassures audiences that the Volturi are no longer a looming danger, at least for now. But here's where things get interesting, because as much as that vision gives closure, it also opens up plenty of doors for more storytelling. For instance, the Cullens have always had to move around to keep up the facade of their eternal youth. They've collected graduation caps as trophies for every high school stint, so it's only natural to assume they continued this routine after leaving Forks. Renesmee growing up while surrounded by a family constantly on the move creates endless opportunities for drama, secrecy, and tension. And Jacob being tied to her through imprinting only makes their story more complex. So, how does all this connect to the possibility of a Twilight 6? Well, think about it. Renesmee's entire existence is groundbreaking in the vampire world. She's one of the only known half-human, half-vampire hybrids, and her presence already sparked paranoia among the Volturi ones. Even though they backed off in Breaking Dawn Part 2, it's not hard to imagine them changing their minds later. The Volturi are power-hungry, and Renesmee's ability might be too tempting for them to ignore forever. That alone could set the stage for another big conflict, especially if Renesmee has grown into adulthood and is stepping into her own identity. Jacob's imprinting also becomes more complicated the older Renesmee gets. Right now, the imprint means protection and devotion, but once she matures, the question becomes whether it naturally shifts into something romantic. That storyline would no doubt stir up debate, but it would also allow the franchise to explore Jacob's character in a deeper way. Does he struggle with the weight of imprinting? Does Renesmee choose him back? Or does she feel trapped by destiny? These are exactly the kinds of questions that could drive an entirely new film. And let's not forget Bella and Edward. They've always been central to the saga, and a sixth movie could easily explore what it means for them to raise a daughter who is not only unique, but also destined to stand out in both the human and vampire worlds. Bella's protective instincts combined with Edward's cautious nature would be tested all over again, especially if the Volturi re-emerge or if Renesmee attracts attention from others who fear or desire her abilities. The sixth movie could even expand the vampire world itself. We've already met her other covens during the Volturi showdown, so bringing them back or introducing new hybrids would make perfect sense. Renesmee might not be the only one of her kind, and that discovery could change everything. Basically, Jacob's imprinting, Renesmee's hybrid nature, and Alice's vision together create the perfect launchpad for another chapter. It wouldn't feel forced because these elements are already baked into the ending of the original saga. The final film left us with peace, but it wasn't the kind of peace that felt permanent. It was more like a pause before the next storm. So while fans are waiting for the animated Midnight Sun series, which will retell the story from Edward's perspective, the possibility of a live-action continuation is sitting right there. Renesmee's future with Jacob, the family's endless need to move, and the Volturi's thirst for control could all easily tie together to create a new conflict big enough for a sixth movie. And considering how devoted Twilight fans remain after all these years, there's no doubt people would line up to see where this unusual love story goes next. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.